Yo yo, what's up? Skulls and Bones 444 here. Man, happy Friday. It's been a long day. Had to deal with the professionals coming in to fix air conditioning vents. So, anyways, you guys are already well aware of the synchronicities that you should be seeing. I just recently saw 144, and this message is for the whole collective, okay? This is a serious matter, very serious matter. So please, please, please pay close attention. All right, I titled this as Ending a Marriage with Someone Who Married You Without Your Consent. Your karmic masculine did this to you. They married you without your consent. Tell you why. I want to talk about this because this is crucial. Given the high volume of divine feminines that discovered that they're married to their karmic masculine, but never knew about it. If this situation pertains to you, then I'm so sorry. I've done my research and have provided information down below so that you can understand the nitty gritty details of what you can do to end the bullshit and how the law can help you out immediately. If you're married to your karmic masculine, then your signature was forged by their karmic feminine, and this was to gain access to any inheritance or trust funds that may have been left for you by a deceased loved one, especially a male figure. The karmic masculine also did this as a form of revenge to get back at you for leaving them. With that being said, perhaps the karmic masculine already spent the money that was meant for you or occupies the house that was left for you and has been living there ever since and doing secret satanic rituals on you and your divine masculine. How fucking cruel and pathetic. But then again, karmic masculine is nothing but a cruel and cold-hearted son of a bitch. So, here we go even more. First and foremost, if someone married you without your permission, you should immediately contact a lawyer to file for an annulment. This is considered a forced marriage and is legally invalid. Did you hear me when I said that? It is legally invalid, allowing you to have the marriage legally dissolved by a court as if it never happened. The key points to remember: legal action is crucial. Do not hesitate to seek legal advice and take action to officially nullify the marriage. Report potential crimes. Depending on the circumstances, you may need to report the situation to the authorities as a case of fraud or coercion. 353 on the timer. Did you hear what I just said? Depending on the circumstances, you may need to report the situation to the authorities as a case of fraud or coercion. Gather evidence. Collect any documentation that proves you did not consent to the marriage, like communication records, witness statements, or evidence of coercion. 424 on the timer. So I'm on to something then, guys. Confirmation. What might happen in such a case? Investigation by authorities. Law enforcement may investigate the situation to determine if any criminal charges are applicable. Court proceedings. 454 on the timer. The court will likely hear your case and review evidence to decide on the annulment. Protection orders. Depending on the severity of the situation, you may be able to obtain a restraining order against the other person. Forced marriage. Okay, now here we go. This information is intended to assist you in understanding the dynamics of what a forced marriage is. 533 on the time. A forced marriage means a marriage with one or more elements of force, fraud, or coercion, and where one or both parties do not or cannot consent to the marriage. Consent means that you have given free, your full, free, and informed agreement to marry your intended spouse and to the timing of the marriage. I'll repeat that again, guys. Consent means that you have given your full, free, and informed agreement to marry your intended spouse and to the timing of the marriage. Forced marriage may occur when family members or others use physical or emotional abuse, threats, or deception to force you to marry without your consent. Forced marriage can be both a cause and a consequence of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking. 654 on the timer. When it said stalking, it definitely goes along hand in hand with the gang stalking. 707 on the timer. It goes hand in hand with the gang stalking that everybody's been going through. Hmm. Forced marriage can happen to individuals of any race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sex, age, immigration status, or national origin. It can happen to individuals from any economic or educational background. 737 on the timer. If you believe you are in a forced marriage or at risk of a forced marriage, you may be able to receive legal aid, social services, and safety planning, including emergency housing. You may also be able to obtain an order of protection, annulment, legal separation, divorce, or a child custody order granting you custody of any children resulting from the forced marriage. The U.S. government is opposed to forced marriage and considers it to be a serious human rights abuse. I'll say that again. The U.S. government is opposed to forced marriage and considers it to be a serious human rights abuse. If the victim of forced marriage is a child, forced marriage is also a form of child abuse. 855 on the timer. The U.S. government is working in the United States and abroad to end the practice and to assist individuals who have been forced into marriage or are at risk of being forced into marriage. In some U.S. states, forced marriage is a crime. And in all U.S. states, people who force someone to marry may be charged with violating state laws, including those against domestic violence, child abuse, rape, assault, kidnapping, threats of violence, stalking, or coercion. Once again, the words stalking and coercion are involved again. People who force someone to marry may also face significant immigration consequences, such as being inadmissible to or removable from the United States. If you have been or are being forced into marriage, you are not at fault, and you have not violated any U.S. laws by entering into the marriage. Forced marriage is a marriage in which one or more of the parties is married without their consent or against their will. 10:30 on the timer. I'm going to say this shit again. Forced marriage is a marriage in which one or more of the parties is married without their consent or against their will. A marriage can also become a forced marriage even if both parties enter with full consent, if one or both are later forced to stay in the marriage against their will. 1100 on the timer. A forced marriage differs from an arranged marriage, in which both parties presumably consent to the assistance of their parents or a third party, such as a matchmaker, in finding and choosing a spouse. There is often a continuum of coercion used to compel a marriage, ranging from outright physical violence to subtle psychological pressure. 11:33 on the timer. Though now widely condemned by international opinion, forced marriages still take place in various cultures across the world, particularly in parts of South Asia and Africa. Some scholars object to use of the term forced marriage because it invokes the consensual, legitimating language of marriage, such as husband wife, for an experience that is precisely the opposite. 12:12 on the timer. So, your karmic definitely could have used their karmic to forge your signature on the marriage certificate, okay, the documentation, okay, and so legally that's your husband, okay, and you're his wife. That is ridiculous, okay. They don't. Some scholars don't want to call it a forced marriage because, like I said, husband wife shit. But by law, that's what the fuck it's called, a forced marriage, because you were never aware of it. A variety of alternative terms have been proposed, including forced conjugal association and conjugal slavery. I'll say that again. A variety of alternative terms have been proposed, including forced conjugal association and conjugal slavery. So, what that means is karmic masculine married you without your consent to make you their slave. Yep. Mm. To technically make you their slave. The United Nations views forced marriage as a form of human rights abuse since it violates the principle of the freedom and autonomy of individuals. Your human rights as a person has been totally fucking violated. Okay? Divine feminines. Oh my god. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that a person's right to choose a spouse and enter freely into a marriage is central to their life and dignity. and their equality as a human being. The Roman Catholic Church deems forced marriage grounds for granting an annulment. For a marriage to be valid, both parties must give their consent freely. But I want to clarify something for you guys. 15:15 on the timer. You ain't gotta be a Roman Catholic, okay? I mean, you could be of any religion, all right, and still have this forced marriage without your knowledge. The Supplementary Convention on the abolition of slavery also prohibits marriage without right to refusal by both parties and requires a minimum age for marriage to prevent this. Similarly, the International Labor Organization recognizes forced marriage as a form of modern slavery. What did I just say? Modern slavery. Karmic masculine married you to make you their slave and their bitch. I don't think so, bitches. In 2013, the first United Nations Human Rights Council resolution against child, early and forced marriages was adopted. The resolution recognizes child. Early in 2013, the first United Nations Human Rights Council resolution against child, early and forced marriages was adopted. The resolution recognizes child, all of this shit, as involving violations of human rights, which prevents individuals from living their lives free from all forms of violence, and that has adverse consequences on the enjoyment of human rights, such as the right to education and the right to the highest attainable standard of health, including sexual and reproductive health. You guys understand that shit? The resolution that recognizes child, early and forced marriage as involving violations of human rights, which prevents individuals from living their lives free from all forms of violence, and that has adverse consequences on the enjoyment of human rights, such as the right to education and reproductive health, and the right to have the highest attainable standard of health, including sexual and reproductive health. And also states that elimination of child, early, and forced marriage should be considered in the discussion of the post 2015 development agenda. The elimination of this harmful practice is one of the targets of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. There you guys have it. 18:20 on the timer. So if you guys know that your karmic masculine has married you without your knowledge, get to it. Love you guys.